When people think of training their dog, usually what comes to mind is sit, down, stay, come, essentially the obedience commands. What people rarely think about is how our dogs actually come to learn and understand what these commands mean. There is a science behind the training. In this video today we're going to learn about two scientists who had a huge contribution to learning theory, not just with dogs and how they learn, but also with people. First we'll see and learn about Ivan Pavlov, who you probably more famously know for Pavlov's dogs, possibly classical conditioning. Secondly, we will learn about B.F. Skinner, who you may or may not know because of the Skinner box. These two scientists both had unique ways of studying how dogs learned, one by association and pairing, and the other by behavior and consequences.
Ivan Pavlov pioneered conditioning as a means of testing how well animals learn by training dogs. By ringing a bell or flashing a light before he fed his dogs, Pavlov conditioned them to associate one with the other. So, eventually, when he turned the light on, but there was no food, the dogs, nevertheless, anticipated a meal and began salivating.
Classical conditioning is simply the pairing of one thing with something else to create an association or meaning. In this instance, what I am doing is pairing Ryder's name with a treat. By creating this association, I am showing my dog that good things happen when I call their name. Essentially, what that will mean in the long run is that when I call Ryder's name, he will come to me.
Ryder! Good boy! Good! Yay! Good job! Good job! Excellent! Awesome! Good job!
Mazarine Banaji in the Department of Psychology, Richard Clark Cabot Professor of Social Ethics. B.F. Skinner is, I would say, the 20th century's preeminent psychologist. His main contribution was twofold. First, in the form of an idea, the idea being that if psychology is to be a science, it cannot study anything that's not directly observable. What you could see directly was behavior, and this is the most important sort of concept that he came up with, and designed equipment, boxes, recording equipment, to measure an animal's responses in the face of something called reinforcement. So the idea is a very simple one. If I want to increase some behavior, let's say a positive behavior, what I need to do is make sure that I give you a reinforcer every time. He broke this important concept of how do we change people's behaviors, how do we shape them? And he was a true, I would say, American psychologist. He believed very much that who you came all wired up to be was much less important than what the world could do to you and shape you.
Using operant conditioning to train a behavior, what you are teaching your dog is that their behaviors have consequences. In this instance, what I am doing is waiting for my dog to sit quietly before I open the door. I simply put my hand on the doorknob, wait him out, and wait for him to sit. When he does sit, I then open the door. Now, if he gets up before I tell him his release word, I close the door. The closing of the door is letting him know that he's made a mistake. The door closes. I wait for him to sit again. Once he sits, I then open the door. As he stays there, I give him the release word, and outside we go. So now you know about Pavlov and Skinner and what they contributed to the science behind the training. I hope that the examples that I gave you, although simple, conveyed just a tiny bit of how you can use these two powerful sciences, classical conditioning and operant conditioning. And I hope that just this little bit of science has got you intrigued and makes you want to go and learn more about how you can get your dog to do what you want. by using the science behind the training.